Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential and I'm here today to take a closer look at the Janome AirThread 2000D overlocker, just one of a wide range of sewing machines, overlockers and cover stitch machines available to buy on our site sewessential.co.uk. At Sew Essential, we pride ourselves on using our expert knowledge to help you find the perfect machine for you. And that's why I've made this video, but we're also always here to support you by phone or email too. The Janome AirThread 2000D is the next model up from the Janome 6234D, and it has all the same great features, but it also has jet air threading loopers, so you can thread the loopers at the press of a lever. It is just so simple. You can also thread this machine in any order. It also has a retractable knife that is much easier to use and much easier to engage and disengage. On the other machines you have to open the front cover. On the AirThread 2000 it's just a simple dial that you turn, and in my opinion it also has a superior telescopic thread guide. The same as the 6234D, you've got the option to sew with 2, 3 or 4 overlocking threads, so you can create lots of different stitches, wide and narrow options, and also things like Picot edging, pin tucking, flat lock stitching, and I'll show you some of those key stitches in the video. It also comes with a free trim trap when you purchase it from us, so that catches all the bits as you sew and keeps your work area nice and tidy. It has differential feed so that you can compress or stretch the fabric as you sew, so you can do things like create gathering stitches, or you can stretch the fabric as you sew if you want to. It also has an excellent needle threader, so combined with the air threading loopers, it is just so easy to set this machine up so that you spend less time setting the machine up and more time sewing. It also has an incredibly easy to use rolled hem option. Some of the cheaper machines you have to actually physically insert and remove a stitch finger. That's not necessary with the AirThread 2000. You just slide a simple lever across to move it into that rolled hem mode. I'll pop a link in the corner of the screen so you can visit our website and take a closer look and purchase the machine there. Later in the video we'll have a look at what comes in the box, but now let's get started with what this fantastic machine can do for you. The first thing I'm going to show you is just how easy the Janome AirThread 2000 is to thread. I'm going to start by threading the lower looper, but in actual fact you can thread this machine in any order, which is a huge plus point. So to thread the lower looper, I'm going to pass the thread through the thread guide on the telescopic thread guide here. This will actually extend right up, but that would be out of shot, so I'm just keeping it at the lower level so that you can see what I'm doing, but actually you would extend that fully up when you were threading the machine. And you just want to bring the thread from the back to the front through this first guide, and you can just thread the machine like that, but if you want the threads to be extra secure, you've got the option to just pass the thread through that second guide there from back to front again, and then I'm just going to extend that up, and the next step is to ensure that the thread passes through the thread guide on top of the machine, so you just pass it from right to left and you'll hear it click. That's clicked into place. Always make sure you've got your presser foot up when you're threading as well, and then bring the thread down through the groove, which will take it through the tension discs, and then we'll take a look at threading the actual looper. So now we're going to actually thread the looper. We've got the thread coming down the front of the machine here. Just need to open the front cover. We just slide that across to the right and open it forward like so. And then the first thing we need to do is just engage the threading ports, and these tubes will match up and meet up with the lower and the upper looper. And to do that, we switch from sewing mode to threading mode. So we move this switch from the left to the right, like so. Now on threading mode, and then we need to turn the hand wheel towards us, and as we turn it towards us you'll see the machine move and you'll see those threading ports connect. So if you just watch there as I turn the hand wheel, there we have it, those ports are now connected, and that will allow the machine to pass the thread from the threading port through to the looper with the press of the lever. So the next thing to do is to insert the thread into the threading port. You've got the upper threading port here and the lower threading port here, and this simple dial just selects whichever one you want to thread. So we're going to thread the lower looper. I'm going to make sure I take the thread behind the thread guide here and then place some thread into the threading port. Make sure this switch is on standard rather than tight when you're threading. And then we're just going to raise this lever and you'll hear it click. And then we'll depress the lever, and if you watch carefully, you'll see the thread fly out of the lower looper. And you can see how easy that is to thread. It's just so simple and so easy to use. And now we're going to thread the upper looper in exactly the same way. We've done exactly the same process at the top of the machine, and it's the same down here as well, but I'm just going to push this switch across so that it's pointing at the upper looper, and then insert the thread into the threading port like we did for the lower looper. So just pop some thread in there. You can use tweezers to do that as well if you find it easier. Sometimes just easy to just tuck a little bit extra in as well. And then we're going to raise the lever again, and when I press the lever down this time, you'll see the upper looper thread pop out of the upper looper like so. So you can see there now we've got the upper and lower loopers threaded, and it's just so easy. Now we're going to thread the right needle, and again I've followed exactly the same process at the top of the machine, and then I've got the right needle thread coming down the front of the machine here, and we just want to follow the arrows across through that gap there, and then up and over the take-up lever here and down into the slot on the right here. There's one on the left for the left needle and one on the right for the right needle. Then we're going to take the thread behind the thread guide on the needle bar, and then we can use the needle threader, which is another great thing about the Janome AirThread 2000 is that you get a brilliant needle threader with it. So I'm just going to draw that down now, and the reason I really like this needle threader as well is it's a needle threader where you draw it down and it stays there. And I always think that's great because that means you can use both hands to manoeuvre the thread as you need to, whereas with some needle threaders you've got to hold on to the lever and keep it down while you try and manoeuvre the thread, and that can just cause, you know, be a bit more difficult. But we just pass the thread across the eye of the needle like so through the relevant slots, and then release the lever up, and that needle is now threaded. It's lovely and easy to do, and a really sturdy, reliable needle threader on this machine, which I really like. And then finally I'm going to thread the left needle, so I'm going to bring the thread across following the arrows again, through the gap here, up and over that take-up lever again, and then through the left hand guide this time, behind the guide on the front of the needle bar. And then to use the needle threader for the left needle, I just need to pull this lever and you'll feel it click, and it's now in position to thread the left needle. So I'm going to draw that down, and then I can bring the thread across in the same way as we did for the right needle. Just pass it through the relevant grooves and guides so that it goes across the eye of the needle, and then release it. And it really is an incredibly reliable, easy to use needle threader, which is another great plus point of the Janome AirThread 2000, which you can purchase on our website, and I've popped links below for you. So I have turned the threading / sewing switch to sewing and shut the front cover, and before I stitched off some practice stitches I passed all of the threads under the foot. The looper threads you just bring through the gap between the blade and the foot and bring them under the foot, and then I've lowered the presser foot. The lever to do this is on the back of the machine here. So I've lowered the presser foot, and then I can just place my fabric under the foot and go ahead and sew. And because we've threaded the lower and upper loopers, the left and right needle, we're sewing a 4-thread overlocking stitch. And you can see that's lovely and neat. We've got the green and yellow lines of stitching, which are your needle threads, sewing 2 parallel lines of stitches. And then we've got the blue thread, which is the upper looper. And on the back we've got the red thread, which is the lower looper, and you can just see it's a lovely neat stitch, and it was so easy to set the machine up to sew that. Now I'm going to show you one of the other most common stitches used, which is a 3-thread overlocking stitch. And to sew this and convert from the 4-thread overlocking stitch, I've simply removed the left needle. Now for a 3-thread overlocking stitch, you can remove the left or the right needle. If you remove the left needle, like I've done, you'll get a narrow 3-thread overlocking stitch. If you remove the right needle, you'll get a wider 3-thread overlocking stitch. But generally, I like to use the narrow one because this is most often used on lighter weight fabrics for a more sort of delicate finish, and therefore I just think the narrow one tends to suit those sorts of things better. I wouldn't use this as a construction stitch to actually construct a garment and create the seams. I generally would just use this to finish the edges of the seam allowances, but you know, it's personal preference. There isn't any wrong or right, it's whatever suits you best. But a 3-thread overlocking stitch won't be as strong as a 4-thread, so just bear that in mind. And I'm also sewing this one on some jersey. I haven't changed any of the tension settings, I've just got them all on standard. So I've gone from sewing calico and now I'm sewing jersey, so I just want to show you how well it sews on jersey as well. So you can see there we've got this lovely neat 3-thread stitch. So instead of having a dual parallel lines of needle stitches, we've just got the yellow needle stitches, the right needle stitches there. We've got the upper looper thread in blue again, and then on the reverse we've got the lower looper thread in red. And it's lovely and neat, and you know, there will be times when you do need to adjust the tension settings on the machine, and that's very easy to do. They're just 4 dials on the top of the machine, but I think it's quite nice to show you that actually it's handled some cotton jersey and some woven fabric really well without adjusting any of those settings. While the AirThread 2000 is set up for a 3-thread overlocking stitch, it's a great opportunity for me to show you the rolled hem option. So this is a lovely decorative stitch. It's very commonly used on overlockers, and it just gives the edge of your fabric a really pretty finish. It's commonly used on lighter weight fabrics like cotton lawns and chiffons and satins, and we just need to change a few of the settings on the machine before we can go ahead and sew this stitch. Before I do that though, I also want to point out that I've attached the trim bin to the front of the machine. It literally just slots on the front, but this will catch all of the scraps that are created as you sew and the excess fabric's trimmed off. And it just keeps your work area lovely and neat and tidy. And it's worth pointing out because you don't get one of these with all overlockers, but it is included as standard when you purchase the Janome AirThread 2000 from us. You can find a link below to view it and purchase it on our site. But let's talk about these settings for the 3-thread rolled hem now. So the first thing we need to do is move this sliding dial from standard to tight. So I'm just going to bring that across to the right. Then we need to adjust the differential feed and the stitch length, and all of these settings are in the detailed instruction manual that you get with the machine as well. The differential feed is the smaller dial and the stitch length is the larger dial. So I'm just going to change the stitch length first. I need to bring that down to an R for rolled hem. And then the differential feed needs to be set at 1. There's a marking on the side of the machine here to line your chosen stitch length or differential feed up with, and it's already set for 1 on the differential feed, but if I did want to increase or decrease that, I just simply turn that dial. It's really smooth, really easy to use, but we want that set at 1 for a rolled hem. And then the last thing we need to do is just move this dial across to R for rolled hem, and that adjusts the stitch finger to create that lovely rolled finish on the edge of the fabric, which you'll see when I sew it. And it's worth pointing out how easy that is as well, because on some of the lower end machines you have to remove the stitch finger itself from the machine on some of the different brands. You have to open the machine up. It's just a bit more of a manual process, but it's lovely and easy on the AirThread 2000. So I'll go ahead and show you the 3-thread rolled hem now. I've got some very lightweight lining fabric that I'm using. And I should just mention while I'm here as well, another great thing I like about the AirThread 2000 is the clear 5/8 marking here. On some overlockers you get the markings, but you don't get any label to tell you what the different markings correspond to. So I do think that's really useful having that there. I often have to get my tape measure out and remind myself on my overlocker, so I do like that feature. But let's go ahead and sew this rolled hem now. So you can see there that lovely neat way of finishing the raw edge of the fabric. That upper looper thread is just wrapping round the edge of the fabric and finishing it, and it's just great. It's a great alternative for if a pattern says to do a narrow hem and you think, oh, folding the fabric and folding it again might be a bit bulky. Just adds a really unique finish to your fabric. And if you want to fill the stitches in even more, you can try using some woolly nylon, which is a thicker thread, in the looper. You'll find that on our website. I'll try and remember to pop links below for you. And then you can also use the chain of stitches on the rolled hem to create little catches for bra straps and belt loops and that sort of thing on your tops and dresses that you make. Now I want to show you a 2-thread overlocking stitch. So I've already shown you the 3-thread stitches, which are a more delicate alternative to the 4-thread overlocking stitch. But on this overlocker, the Janome AirThread 2000, you've also got the option to sew a 2-thread overlocking stitch, and you don't get that on all overlockers. For this stitch, you use the lower looper thread and either the left or the right needle. And I've converted it very easily from the 3-thread rolled hem to the 2-thread overlocking stitch by just removing the upper looper thread. Now I need to turn the hand wheel so that the upper looper is in the correct position. And then all we need to do to set the machine up for the 2-thread stitch is we just use this spreader tool here and pop the point into the hole on the upper looper adapter here, bring it across like so, and you just want to click that into position behind the main bulk of the upper looper there. And once you've done that, that will enable you to sew a 2-thread overlocking stitch. And I've tested it and I've been able to do that while the machine's threaded. What I would recommend if you're going to do it that way is just stitch out a sample first, just to make sure that everything's working properly. If you do have any problems, I would recommend unthreading the machine, moving the upper looper adapter across, and then threading the machine and stitching out. But I've moved it across while the machine's already threaded, and now I'm going to go ahead and sew that 2-thread overlocking stitch. So I've just done a little test and it did work perfectly without rethreading the machine, so I was able to just leave it with the right needle threaded and the lower looper threaded, engage the 2-thread adapter, and it sewed a beautiful 2-thread overlocking stitch. I should just mention that I have switched the standard tight dial on the front of the machine back to standard, and I have also put it back to the standard setting on the side of the machine here, because we had that on a rolled hem setting before to do the 3-thread rolled hem. I've moved that back and I've lengthened the stitch as well. I've gone back up to a 3 on the stitch length. But let me just show you now this lovely delicate 2-thread overlocking stitch. Just such a lovely, pretty stitch, really neat, really delicate. Again, I wouldn't recommend using this on construction seams because it's not going to be as strong as a 4-thread overlocking stitch, but certainly for finishing seams, especially on those lighter weight fabrics, it's just a really nice alternative. It's lovely and delicate and really pretty. I thought it would also be nice to show you the Picot edging you can do on the Janome AirThread 2000. So for this stitch, I've got the upper and lower loopers threaded and the right needle threaded. I've got all my tensions on 3. I've moved the dial, the standard tight dial, back to tight, and the dial on the side of the machine here, I've moved it back to the rolled hem setting. I've got my blade engaged and my differential feed on 1, and all of the information how to set up for the different stitches, it's all in the instruction manual. It's really detailed, really easy to follow, and that is included with the machine when you purchase it from us. But this Picot edging is generally used again on very lightweight fabrics. It's just a delicate decorative stitch to finish the edge of lighter weight fabrics like chiffons, georgettes, crepe de chines, things like that. So I've just got a piece of lining fabric I'm going to show you on now. And you can see there, it just creates that sort of slightly scalloped edge. It's just a pretty decorative finish to the edge of the fabric. So it could be used on things like a chiffon scarf or, like I said, crepe de chine fabrics, lighter weight fabrics. It's just another alternative way to neatly finish those edges. And before we move on to what comes in the box, I just thought it would be nice to do a walk round of the machine so that it's really clear where all the different dials are to adjust the settings on the machine and just have a bit of a recap. So on the side here, we've got the stitch length dial is the larger of the 2 dials, and the one inside that is the differential feed. The differential feed can be used to gather the fabric if we turn it up to a higher number, or it can stretch the fabric if we turn it to a lower number. And below that we've got the hand wheel. You've got a marking on the hand wheel and on the side of the machine that you line up when you're in threading mode. On the front here we've got the standard and tight dial, and we had it on the tight setting for things like the rolled hem and the Picot edge. We had it on the standard setting for most of the other overlocking stitches. We've got the trim bin on the front of the machine here, which comes included with the machine when you purchase it from us, and that just catches any scraps that are trimmed off as you sew. I'm just going to remove that. It just slides onto the front of the machine. And then here we have the blade engage or disengage dial. So at the moment we've got the blade up, it's going to cut the edge of the fabric. If we want to disengage that, we just push that in and turn it towards the disengaged diagram there, and you'll see that blade drop down, and that will no longer trim the edge of the fabric as you sew. If you want to return to trimming the fabric, you just do the opposite, push the dial in, turn it all the way around to the diagram, and as you start to sew, that blade will now be engaged. Here we have the width cutting dial. So if you turn the dial up, you will cut a wider width of the fabric. If you turn it down, it will cut a narrower width. And then here we've got the rolled hem setting and the standard setting. That just flips across. And again, we use the rolled hem setting on the 3-thread rolled hem and also the Picot edge. We've had a look at the needle threader on the machine. And then on the top of the machine here, we've got the thread tension dials for the left needle, right needle, upper looper, lower looper. And then on the very top of the machine here, we've got the presser foot pressure dial, so that if you're working with particularly thick fabrics or particularly delicate fabrics, you've got the option to reduce or increase the presser foot pressure. So if you're impressed with all the fantastic features on the Janome AirThread 2000 overlocker and you'd like to take a closer look or purchase it, just click the link in the corner of the screen to visit our website and you can purchase it there. In the box you'll find everything you would expect: a detailed instruction manual, the foot control, a handy accessory box, some spare needles, blades, screwdrivers, different tools, everything you need to get you started. Then, if you want to take your sewing even further, there's a wide range of feet and accessories available to buy separately for this machine too. You might want to invest in something like a beading attachment, an elastic gathering foot, a piping foot, and they're all available to purchase on our website. Just look for the Janome Overlocker feet and accessories, and if you need any help choosing, don't hesitate to ask, because that is exactly what we're here for. I've given you a really good overview of the Janome AirThread 2000 Overlocker, but if I've left any of your questions unanswered, don't hesitate to get in contact. We're always very happy to help. All of our machines come with a full manufacturer's warranty, so that's 2 years on the AirThread 2000 with the option to extend it. In the unlikely event that you have a problem, just get in contact with us and we'll be very happy to help. Most of the time we can solve any issues over the phone, but if that's not the case, we'll collect the machine and do everything for you. We offer the best prices, but if you do happen to see this machine cheaper anywhere else, don't hesitate to get in contact and we'll be very happy to help. All of our machines are delivered free of charge the next working day by courier with a dedicated time slot, so you know exactly when your lovely new machine's going to arrive. I hope you're feeling excited about your new overlocker, and thanks for watching.